pleasant day to each and every one of you. I am Rizalyn Miergas, BS Ed 1B, presenting my performance in our subject. First, let me tell you the disaster that I choose in the previous lesson that we've discussed. Earthquake is the disaster that I choose, and the preparedness that I do before earthquake happens are: I set up a medical aid pack, a battery-controlled radio, an electric lamp, and additional batteries at our home. I study how to switch off the gas and power. I make up a plan of where to meet my family after an earthquake and instruct them what to do. I made sure that we don't leave weighty items on shelves because we know that they fall during a shake. My family and I anchor weighty furnishings, cabinets, and machines to the dividers of floor. Next is during an earthquake. I will stay calm. Most of the time, when an earthquake happens, we are inside our house. So we stay inside our house when an earthquake is happening. And if we are outside, we stay outside. We stand against a wall near the center of our house, in doorway, or crawl under heavy furniture like a desk or table. I will instruct my family that we must stay away from windows and outside doors. I will also instruct them that if we are outside, we stay in an open area away from the stuff that might fall off from the houses, or the house itself will fall. If in case that we are in a vehicle, we stop the vehicle and stay inside until the shake stops. Next is after an earthquake. I will check myself and others for injuries, and I will provide the first aid that I prepare before the earthquake happens for anyone who needs it. I will check the water, gas, and electric lines for damage. And if any are damaged, I will tell to my father that he must shut off the valves, or I will do it myself. I will also instruct my family that they should check for the smell of gas. If one of us smell it, then they will quickly inform us so that we can open all the windows and doors, leave immediately, and report it to the authorities. I will also turn on the radio to get news, and if possible, we don't use the phones unless it's an emergency. If I am at school, I will follow the emergency plan or the instructions of the person in charge. I will also expect aftershocks so that I am ready when it happens. Now, let us proceed to the two questions that our teacher provided. The number one question is, what have you learned about emergency preparedness? In the lesson Emergency Preparedness, first things first, I learned its definition, and it is the method involved with turning consciousness of the natural dangers and the risk faced by a local area into activities that work on its capacity to answer and recover from disaster. Emergencies can happen any place, anytime. The actual idea of an emergency is unpredictable and can change in degree and effect. Being ready and prepared is basic to safeguarding lives, the climate, and property. I learned that being prepared can diminish dread, uneasiness, and misfortunes that go with disaster. Communities, people, and family ought to know what to do in case of a disaster and where to look for shelter during a strong disaster. People ought to be prepared to empty their homes and take refuge in public shelters, and the skill to really focus on their fundamental clinical necessities. Individuals likewise can lessen the effect of disaster like flood sealing, hoisting a home or moving a home out of danger, and getting things that could shake free in a quake, and in some cases, keep away from the peril totally. I additionally learned that emergency preparedness plan to bring down the dangers of catastrophe brought by natural hazards, support and address the quickly requirements of disaster casualties, and to recover from the harms of the disaster. Emergency preparedness is essential in building a more equitable and supportable future for the communities in high gamble areas for calamity. On the off chance that we practice the emergency preparedness and do it, the chance of hazard event turning into disaster is little. I additionally learned in this lesson that preparedness can save lives. Emergency preparedness can be a desperate matter. Having emergency havens can keep individuals out of dangerous climate and deal a transitory spot to live after a disaster has happened. Preparedness can reduce fears. Knowing what to do and where to go can diminish the apprehension about the obscure and help all elaborate arrive at well-being quicker. Planning can make it easier to recover. One of the keys of emergency preparedness is to guarantee misfortunes aren't horrendous. Knowing the way in which you will keep all that useful after a misfortune can assist you recover more quickly. Now, let us proceed to question number 2, which is what to do before, after, and during a disaster. Before disaster, we need to set up a survival kit that incorporates a 3-day supply of necessities for every individual in your family, like food, medication, water, games, electric lamp, and extraordinary toys to assist with keeping your youngsters quiet during a disaster. Make a plan to contact relatives, particularly in the event that you are not together when a disaster strikes. Assuming your kids are mature enough, show them how to call 911 and retain significant telephone numbers. Make a reunification plan as a feature of the family correspondence intend to rejoin you with your friends and family when it is protected to do as such. Be educated, remain informed, external symbol, and get imperative data like disaster admonitions and cautions from dependable news sources and your neighborhood disaster the board office. During disaster, on the off chance that you have not been ordered to evacuate, remain in a protected area or safe house during a disaster. In your home, a protected area might be a ground floor inside room, storeroom, or washroom. Be sure you have access to your survival kit in case that you are in an emergency event that endures a few days. Pay attention to your convenient radio for significant updates and directions from nearby specialists. Make sure to have a battery-controlled radio in your survival kit. A few radios are presently furnished with various power sources. For example, batteries, sunlight-based chargers, and a hand wrench. On the off chance that power is lost, utilize a generator with alert. Ensure conditions are protected prior to working a versatile generator. Just work it outside, away from windows, entryways, or vents. Adhere to every one of maker's guidelines. Remain in your protected area and don't drive until the risk has passed. Oppose the compulsion to keep an eye on your property until you are certain it is protected to do as such. After disaster, make sure you and your loved ones are safe. Your first consideration after a disaster is the health and safety of you and your family. If you're evacuating prior to disaster, stay together if you are able. Having an emergency kit for every person in your family and knowing where to locate irreplaceable papers and valuables is essential. You may want to consider keeping them in a fire-safe box that can be easily grabbed. Assess damages and file a claim once you and your loved ones are safe and you are able to get back to your home. You will need to assess the damages. Take a notebook or cell phone with you so that you can locate and keep track of damaged areas. Taking photos may also be a good idea. Make temporary repairs and find a contractor.